Welcome to the Rhonda Grant Show with your host, Rhonda Grant. If you believe that there is more to life than what you see right now, and you want to find out more, listen in as her guests share their journey and their extraordinary experiences. Now, here is your host, Rhonda Grant.
Welcome. I am so pleased that you have joined us. My name is Rhonda Grant, and you may access all of my podcasts at rhondagrantauthor.com. The gorgeous theme song for the Rhonda Grant Show, Sun on the Water, composed by John Park Wheeler. I'm so pleased that you've downloaded my podcast, the first of many to come. For my first episode, I'm excited to have Cameron Steele, the owner of CTR Network, to interview me. Welcome, Cameron.
Hey, Rhonda. Thanks for having me on your show. It's awesome to be here, and it's awesome that you are doing a podcast with us on our platform. I really appreciate that, and I know it's been a journey for you, and I think that the people that are listening to this podcast will really enjoy what you've got to say and all the information that you have. So thank you for inviting me on your show.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. So, because this is an interview with you, we've got a couple of questions, and I'm going to have many more questions about what you do and stuff like that. So I think one of the first questions I'd like to get to is you've got this book called Magical Forces Within and Extraordinary Discoveries in an Ordinary Life. And I love the cover of this book. And if you haven't seen the cover of this book, go to rhondagrantauthor.com. It's really it's a very peaceful cover to the book. I have to tell you that.
Thank you.
So let me ask you, though, because everybody's got a story about what they're doing and why they're doing it. And to me, I want to kind of know what compelled you to write this book, Magical Forces Within. What was you wake up one day and go, oh, you know what, I'm going to write a book. Or was it something that you've been kind of simmering with, like many people do, and many authors, they simmer with the idea, and then all of a sudden they go, yeah, okay, I got it. What's your story?
Well, it wasn't that simple, actually. It was, I had a car crash, not on purpose. I was T-boned at 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour, and it took the jaws of life to get me out of the vehicle, and I was transported to hospital. So the reason I'm telling you that is that was my pivotal moment. And during my recovery, well, first of all, I didn't have a scratch or a broken bone or anything. But I did have trauma. I had trauma. I hit my head on the seat rest, and I had trauma from the seatbelt, which exposed a lot of not very nice bruises over my course in my recovery. But after my recovery, I began waking up early in the morning, and I had these ideas in my head, and I just started to write. And at the time, I didn't know I was writing a book. I was just following an instinct or, more importantly, a calling. And so it occurred to me a few weeks later that I was writing a book. And I didn't know at the time that Magical Forces Within was being birthed, but that's exactly what I was up to.
And how did, and so what was your, a background for you that people don't know is that you're an entrepreneur, the founder and a business owner, you coach, you work with people who have seeking out your guidance. And you've got a plethora of information. So in the idea of writing this book and realizing, oh yeah, there's a book here. What was your next steps? Because it's very interesting. I find authors very interesting because my wife is an author as well.
Oh,
and
fantastic.
We just talked about this the other day about her writing her book. And I said, well, maybe you just need to dedicate like 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day. And I can hear authors laughing at me right now. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. When you get inspired to write, you just start writing. You can't dedicate a time to it. So it's like, oh yeah, that's true. So
No.
what was it like for you? Because this is your first book, right?
It is my first book.
Yeah.
It was such a wonderful experience because I was getting up early every single morning and writing. uh, it was almost because I was being called to write. I was really in the essence of who I was, and the creativity first thing in the morning is what I tapped into. And it was a tapping into. Some of the material in my book, some people call it a download,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just there for me. It was in the field. And I think this type of information is sometimes there. And if you're opened and you're sitting at your computer, and some of the stuff was coming into my brain so quickly that I
Mm-hmm.
had to type really fast to record it.
Wow.
So for editing, yes, you can set aside time. For writing. This type of writing, and maybe for all types of writing, I'm unsure. It really needed, I really needed to have that time that was sacred to me, that I was able to lay down the types of things that I had
Oh, okay.
to write.
Okay. Right. Now, in this book, this book, you talk about the symbols, the warnings, and the insights that can be solved through the mysteries in life and through a person's own destiny. You talk about the mystical realm of ethereal forces, prophecy, intuition, serendipity, energy, ghost, deja vu, synchronicity, ESP, angel forces. It's really a wide and thought-provoking, inspiring book. So, to you, do you have like an inner guide that you listen to? Does it like where does this information for you come through, and how does it come through it? Do you see it as words in your head, or does it just flow through your fingers? It's there's so many different avenues that we could take here.
Yes, and I think that, these are really good questions because I think that for me, and maybe for a lot of people, it comes sort of to you in an energy that some people call intuition
Mm-hmm.
or in the gut feeling. And somehow it translates to the English language. But what I found is that the more centered I was, the more I meditated, after this crash, the more these types of things came to me. And one of the interesting parts of some of these energetic forces is precognition and precognition dreaming, where you dream of something and by goodness, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost feels, it feels magical. Some of this
Mm-hmm.
stuff feels magical.
Mm. And
But sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I think that a lot of people have these, they're referred to sometimes as special abilities.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people have them. They don't talk about them. They don't know that some people have them, some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they mostly don't talk about them because some people who don't have these special feelings, they don't understand them and they don't believe in them. But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't matter whether you believe in them or not. They're still happening.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, because some people would argue, well, if you believe in something, then it's going to be that if you believe what you believe,
Yes.
and that's true. But other people would think, well, just because you believe it doesn't mean that it's true. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, how do you
Well,
address that kind of statement? What's your
oh well,
philosophy on that?
well, I love that. I have we all have friends, and I have a friend that is a colleague of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't believe in this stuff at all
Mm-hmm.
until we started talking. And she actually has a testimonial in my book that it does happen to her, but she was not in the presence of mind to recognize pull connections
Mm-hmm.
and to realize that it is happening in her life. She's just not recognizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time I finished my book, or right before I finished my book, there's 2 or 3 incidences that I had brought to her attention that she had talked to me about, that definitely they're happening in her life. And so now she pays more attention. But unless you know what to look for, and how to make these connections, you might not see that they are. And
Right.
the first part of my book is a series of stories, and I reached out to a good friend of mine in North Carolina, Michelle Joyce, who helped me with those first stories. And um, after I had my accident, I had like an enlightenment, and I was able to look back over my past and see those connections and write about those connections.
Mm.
So sometimes, I'm not going to say you need an accident, but the universe will keep sending you messages. It'll be subtle in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and then there'll be big messages until you do wake up or become enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when you really start walking your journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that. And, one of the things that, as you're talking about this and you're talking about your friend Michelle Joyce, one of the things that comes up for me is I think to me, a lot of people, I believe that a lot of people have these experience. I think everybody has these experiences where they're kind of mystical. They're like, oh, that was interesting. Or some people would say, oh, that was just a coincidence. Or
Coincidence, yeah.
I mean, coincidences are a big one because it happens for everybody. In fact, just this morning in our email exchange, I had emailed you a question and
Yes.
you said, oh, by coincidence, here you go.
Here
So
you,
it just
yes.
little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder though if one of the things that people get all kind of strange about when it comes to talking about this kind of stuff is the verbiage. When you say intuition, or
Oh,
you say
yes.
serendipity, or you say energy, or you say ghost, or deja vu, or synchronicity, or ESP, all of a sudden
Right.
people's minds go, "Oh, that's kind of strange. What am I? You're kind of weird." You know,
Yeah,
but
I know.
when in fact it's not. It is just the verbiage because I think the secret to all that we need to do to bring this into a realization that everybody has these experiences is somehow changing the verbiage to reflect because this subject would not be considered mainstream, but if we could change the verbiage to reflect mainstream, more people would go, oh yeah, no, I need to look at this.
Yeah, and the thing is that they do studies on these special abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, somebody says, "Okay, well, if you know those things, why don't you tell me whatever?" But I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
clairvoyant, and I can't make these abilities happen because you asked me to make them happen. They happen throughout the day. They happen throughout my life,
Right.
but there is some studies that are going on, actually. Dean Radin, who's the chief scientist at the Noetic Institute, he is studying people who have these abilities. And it's incredible because mainstream science does not recognize them. But again, it doesn't mean that they're not happening. And so they're being studied, and I guess it's overwhelming, um, the stats on it.
Mm. And so those kind of studies I think would make a difference. I think where people get lost too is that when you say, oh, I talked to the other side,
Oh, yes.
people say things like that, and you say, I talked to the other side, and they're like, well, how do we know
Yeah,
the other side exists?
Yeah, I don't understand that part of it.
Yeah,
I don't. I really don't
it's a
understand
difficult
that part
one
of it.
for people. It's a
It
difficult one for
is.
people.
It is. Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you say, when we talk about metaphysical topics, fulfilling prophecies, or ESP, angelic forces, or energy workers, there is something about that. You go, okay, I can relate with that because intuition, serendipity, um, deja vu happens to everybody.
Oh,
What
yes.
what's your explanation of deja vu? Do you have kind of a belief for yourself of what deja vu is? Because everybody says, "Oh, deja vu, it feels like I've been here before," but I
Yeah,
wasn't. You know?
that's what it is. And and I write about deja vu. Do have a chapter in Magical Forces Within regarding deja vu, and it's a feeling that comes to you. Actually, the aura can actually change, and it's almost like your mind has went out ahead of you, but the feeling is outside a common reality. Like our reality now, we're sitting and we're chatting.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden something happens. You get a feeling, there could be an aura with it. And you go, by goodness, I just really feel that I've lived this before, or I've heard that before, or I've been here before. And there's no reason, rhyme or reason whatsoever that you can put your finger on, and that is what people see as deja vu. Now, years ago, they had a sitcom
Mm-hmm.
where they repeated on television, where they repeated episodes of sitcoms from 40 or 50 years ago, and they called that series Deja Vu. But that's not Deja Vu. Deja Vu is not seeing something and then seeing it again. Deja
Right.
Vu is not realizing that you have been somewhere or seen someone or that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where did it come from? Is it because you have past lives?
Yeah.
Who knows what it means, but I do have a chapter on that. It's a very interesting subject.
Yeah, I've always liked the whole deja vu thing, and you know,
Me too.
I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, you know,
Yes.
and I saw the Matrix. The first time I saw the Matrix, you know, years and years ago, they had a deja vu moment in there where they had it, where in the movie they explained it, you know, where he saw the cat and then he saw the cat again, and then they said, "What did you just see?" And it was a glitch in the system.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know, that's funny. It's just funny way of explaining deja vu. There's a glitch in the system, and then you know,
Yeah.
over the years, you see these videos of people posting things where there's glitches, you know, and you're
Yes.
like, well, that's interesting. You know, what is going on there? I mean, I just watched a video recently where there was two cars driving down the road, and they both looked like they hit an invisible wall,
Oh,
and and it was a CCTV camera, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. How'd that happen? You know, I mean, who knows? What videos can be manipulated in so many different ways, so you can't believe every video you see out there, and I certainly
yeah,
don't. You
that's
know,
right.
but
Yeah.
because the bottom line is, I think at the end of the day, with all this stuff that you talk about, I think that you have to trust your gut, and
Oh, yes.
that's one of the main blocks for a lot of people because I feel like when we trust our gut, it's a challenge because you don't know if that's your gut or if that's your ego. How do you separate the two? If they say like you say a person walks in and say, "Oh, I got a feeling to buy this $1 lottery ticket because I feel like I'm going to win. I just know it in my gut," and then they lose.
Hmm.
Was that a gut feeling or was that a hopeful feeling? You know?
That was, yeah, that's a hopeful feeling. And so the mind gut connection, is a book that you can read about these things. And apparently, in your gut are the same type of cells that are in your brain. And so, well, that's fascinating. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have thinking, feeling cells that are sitting in your gut, and actually they're sitting all over your body. But the thing is to listen to that gut instinct. You know, when the hairs go back on your back go up, sort of, when you feel like you're going to walk into a situation that might not be great, you have to listen and pay attention to that feeling before your brain gets a hold of it, because it will rationalize it
Mm-hmm.
and say, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, go ahead. There's nothing wrong here. But there's a whole science on that. And I
Yeah.
just find that fascinating. So the gut feeling is actually your gut. You feel it in your gut. You don't
Is
feel
that the
it.
same as intuition though? Isn't that the same as intuition
No,
then?
intuition is a feeling that comes into your body.
Okay.
And to me, that I just say, and it translates into whatever language you're listening to.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just has words that you just know. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, I don't know if this has happened to you or not, Cameron, but you just go, I just feel like something great's going to happen today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
wonder what that is. But if you just made a record of those types of feelings, then maybe it'll answer itself later that day or later tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, my grandma had intuition. And that's where I first knew that somebody could know something in their body before somebody told you about it.
Mm.
And my grandmother had these special feelings, and I was mystified with it as a child, but later found out that I had many of them.
Mm.
Some of them, when you get a bad feeling about something and you can't figure out where that's coming from or where that might be, can be kind of scary, especially when that bad something does come true.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
But that's a heightened ability to have that.
that's a, and well, it's probably one of the things you don't know about me is that I'm very intuitive when it comes to, I do intuitive life coaching and stuff like that. And so I use
Fantastic.
my intuition and psychic abilities in that sense. I don't necessarily go by the word psychic because
No,
it puts a limit on things, where intuition I feel sometimes is more, I think, to me intuition is more what's the word I'm looking for, grounding to me. I don't know if that's the word I would say,
yeah,
but yeah.
it's grounding. And when
Yeah.
you are operating in life,
Mm-hmm.
where you're paying attention to these types of feelings that are coming to you and the
Mm-hmm.
feelings inside your body, you can't help but be successful because people feel that.
Right.
They resonate with that. Those messages are clear to them
Right.
and they recognize it. And I just find that anybody who has these abilities that are working with people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's such a gift to be
It
able to
is.
give. It's
It is.
such a gift.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you, what would a person do as a daily practice? Would you recommend that people do as a daily practice to get more in touch with these type of gifts, whether it's intuition or whether it's energy, whether it's their synchronicity, ESP, or even some angelic forces? What do you recommend people practice with? What would be a good daily thing for, especially for non starters? People don't know about this stuff, and they're listening to this podcast for the first time, and they're going, "This is
Yeah.
very interesting. I'd like to find out more, but how do I start?"
Yeah, and how you start is, you can do some reading on the subject for one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and lots of
Of
times
course,
what
with your book, Magical Forces Within.
it would be a wonderful it would be a wonderful start, really.
Yeah.
It's a beginner's guide, sort of, because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of every chapter, I do ask the reader to do a small meditation and think back in their life when these types of things might happen. You might not have all of them, but you might have some of the connections.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that reading and then it's the meditating where you go within. And I always wondered when people said, go within, well, where are you going? Where do you go in your body? And I think that the biggest thing is meditation. And when you sit even for 10 or 15 minutes each morning or evening, whenever you get that chance,
Mm-hmm.
and you meditate, keep a notebook handy because it's amazing the ideas that will come to you that you don't want to forget, because as soon as you leave your meditation, you will forget. And I have broken a meditation and have written down some things that I did not want to forget, and
Mm-hmm.
then go back into my meditation. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many answers to questions that come through meditation. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say meditation helps you get more centered.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you get more in touch with energies that are there for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
and also to breathe into your heart. And when you breathe into your heart, you realize the love and the genuineness of yourself, and you can feel those cells in your body if you're really, really in touch. And when you get in touch at this level, many magical things are going to happen, and we have names that we call them. And I think it's good that we call them names because it's how we identify with these types of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be a good practice to do that every day. And of course, journaling. So, if you don't break meditation to write something fantastic down, still
Mm-hmm.
journal after the meditation because more stuff's coming.
Mm. Well, this is fabulous. I have to tell you that this is really fabulous. And as I'm looking over your website, you've got there's some great information on your website. Of course, people can access your book on your website. It's rhondagrantauthor.com, and from there you can find out all kinds of information, journaling, setting intentions, accountability, just a plethora of information. And it's a lovely website, and I would invite people to go and check out your website. So
Thank you.
fantastic. Rhonda, thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show, and also getting a chance to an opportunity to interview you for your premiere episode. I can't wait to have the listeners of your podcast hear more from you, and really open their own world to the possibilities of what you offer.
Thank you very much, Cameron. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. And I'd like to shout out to Davindia, who, of course, helped me with my website and created such a lovely place for people to come and to learn more about themselves by taking part in some of the things that are on the website. And the most important thing, I think, with the website that I'm really looking forward to is they're not downloaded now, but we do have some meditations too from the book that I have commissioned John Park Wheeler to compose the music for them.
Oh,
and we have some more up our sleeves that are coming. So I'm really excited for that part of it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thanks again, Rhonda. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me today, and thank you to Cameron for interviewing me. Check out my next podcast for another exciting guest. Thanks very much. See you all next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to The Rhonda Grant Show with your host, Rhonda Grant. If you would like to find out more information about Rhonda and her upcoming guests and the work that she does, go to her website, rhondagrantauthor.com. That's rhondagrantauthor.com.